Alright, we're westbound here coming into CP Summit, the top of Cajon Pass. As you can see here, we're trying to start throttling down. Accelerometer and our speedometer there's in the green, so we're picking up some speed. Some things you want to consider coming up top is how you're going to go about it. Where do you want to set your dynamic up? Where are you going to set your air? How do you want your DPU to act on the way up? So, there's going to be several options to consider here. Right now, coming into it, we're coming in pretty good. Easing your speed off is not a bad idea either. Coming in completely 30 mile an hour is going to give you very little room to make any necessary adjustments for the hill. So we'll kind of try to take it easy here and drift into it. This will allow us to give a little buffer in case things pick up. We can't react to it right away. So, nice and easy over the top here at Summit. Okay, down to Notch 1, coming into the curve into Silverwood. So the train is now just gently rolling in. Everything's Notch 1, as you can see down here on my DPU screen. No fence up right now. There's different ways to go about this. We go over the top, and I'll mention it here briefly once we get everything settled down. So nice, easy speed. Stay in Notch 1, keep things stretched out. The Cajon Pass is going westbound is very interesting. Things kind of settle in here. It's not a real steep over the top. So you know you have to pull through the summit to keep things going. One thing to note here while we're just gently rolling through here, I'm going to be using methods that I've witnessed on Norfolk Southern, rules, operating rules, that kind of thing. So what CSX does, UP, BNSF, it's all going to be different, but I'm going to base it on my real world experience, bringing trains down the mountain around Horseshoe Curve. So this is kind of the way I go about this. So now we're down to 22 mile an hour. That's an 8 mile an hour buffer coming down here at 30 mile an hour. So things, once we go near side of Silverwood here, things will really start to pick up. So we'll go knock it back. Now everything's at idle, even the DPU. A couple ways you can go about this. You can leave, you can put your fence up. Where's my fence up button? Right there. You can put your fence up, as noted by the green line right here, and you could go to dynamic on the head end and leave the DPU at idle. You could bring the DPU to Notch 1. That will keep everything nice and bunched as the DPU comes down, keeps all the slack in. You don't have any crazy runouts or anything like that. You could knock your fence down and then bring your dynamic up with the DPU and run it all together at one time. Or you could bring your fence up and then control the DPU separately through the fence to keep the dynamic up. So, this is a big heavy train. I know I'm using Bandicam here, so this will be tough, but here are the train stats up top. 8924 on the tons, 6692 on the feet. So she's lengthy, and she's strung out right over the top right now. So, we'll just let her roll a little bit. 21 miles is a really nice speed to come over at. So, alright, accelerometer's starting to move. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put the DPU fence up, and we'll go into dynamic. Let the dynamic warm up. You can see right there, especially if you zoom in, we are on the downhill now. Alright, here comes the accelerometer. Let's go ahead and stay ahead of the curve here. And we'll bunch it up a little bit. The accelerometer is going to be your best friend in determining how your train is handling it. If it's pushing you, you got to watch that accelerometer. So on the dynamic there, keeping them bunched, coming over the top. The rear end is rolling nice and easy. has held nicely, showing 84 on the rear, as you can see. Except for service like that, you know, all the air is applied throughout the entire train. So now you have brakes on all the cars, so everything's going to stay nice and uniform. It's going to help slow you down. So you just got to play with your dynamic now. Just determine how you can see the accelerometer is bouncing. So you're bouncing real good right there. Slower, faster. A little faster, so there we go. We'll compensate. We're going a little dynamic. Clear. A little more. And you're going to reach a point. Well, is this, you know, do I have enough air on? So, take your automatic handle. Add another pound. Right there. Equalizer reservoir showing 83. So we made a 7-pound reduction. One thing about coming down the hill like this, do not panic if things get out of hand. You start going for more air. Let's add another pound on there. That's 8 pounds. You don't want to panic coming down the hill. Let things settle. Make easy adjustments. You make too hard of an adjustment, this thing's gonna go. She's gonna go belly up real quick. So we're showing 30, 29. We got over 3/4 of our dynamic on, so there's a little wiggle room left with the dynamic. We got 8 pounds on. One thing you gotta remember too, coming down with the air, is that once you put the air on, you can't take it back. So we're gonna hold at 8 pounds right now. Hopefully this will be enough to get us through the trip to the bottom. Coming up on the tunnel here. Little fact, road crossing sequence for the tunnel. So starting to lose speed a little bit. Ease off going in just a little bit. Little adjustments. Adjustments will go a long way bringing a heavy train down like this. 26 now. See, we're starting to lose some speed. So our 8 pounds has helped out tremendously. Now we're under 3/4 of our dynamic. As you can see, I've used no independent. You should never use the independent to control a train's movement outside of the yard. That is just a basic train handling rule. Alright, that should do it for the tunnels. Nice and easy here. 25 mile an hour. See, accelerometer's bouncing, so we're picking up, slowing down. Nice and steady. You don't want to let all your dynamic out and run it right up to 30, because like I said, you need wiggle room. Now that you're over the top and you got the train settled down right where you want it, you still need that wiggle room, because if something happens, you know, it picks up. We hit a steep part, something like that. You knock off too much dynamic, she's going to pick up and take off on you. So you can ease it a little bit here to see what it does. This 25 is actually quite a nice downhill. She'll settle here nicely. Alright, we've let our dynamic out just a little bit here, just to let it run. Because we have fairly good control of it now, so you could let it run up to 30 at this point. You know, your 8 pounds is doing the most of the work. And that's as it should be. You know, you don't want to be running right up to notch 8 on the dynamic and holding you right at 30, because you have nowhere to go if something bad happens. So, you know, right now you're at the middle of the road with the dynamic. The air's got a hold of you. So, creep it up a little bit here. We'll go back to about 50. See what it does. So just test it. Little tests. Move it up. See what happens to the accelerometer. See if she settled down a little bit. brake setup, power setup, however the train is, handling right now, is going to be what it's going to be doing in 1 minute. So up and back like this means it's averaging out to where the needle is right now. If it starts going like way up beyond, zoom in here, if it starts up here above 30 mile an hour and stays there, you're going to have an issue. See, up and down. So she's averaging right out. I've hit what I call the sweet spot, that little location on your dynamic that will hold it in, and just right there, just hold it the whole way down the hill. That's what I call the sweet spot. It's tough to find sometimes. Some trains it's really hard to find. See, we're creeping up a little bit there. Now she come back down. See, so she's doing, she's right on the cusp of probably 27.5, somewhere in there, depending on how the sim registers the speed. Take a quick look. Yeah, 27.6. So anything north of 27.5 is considered 28 on the computer. So we're actually not doing too bad, but we'll go ahead and just a little more. Keep it on there, see what she does. Alrighty, through the magic of editing, we're at the bottom. Maybe not the bottom, but out of the steepest part of the hill. There was the speed board, there's the counter set for the 35. So now you can start easing off. You can see you're down to 40, about notch 4 on the dynamic, and still falling down a little bit. The next step is going to be determining where you want to release your air. Now, 8 pounds on, it's going to be tough to drag us down the hill if you had to. Or, let's say you just slowed down too much, you have a place to knock it off. So, you're going to start figuring out where you want to do this at. As you ease off your dynamic, you'll start to see that the accelerometer is not coming up. So, you're going to want to figure out, where's going to be a good place to do this. When I do it, can I hold the train back with what I've got? And this thing, probably, I could knock it off anywhere and then set it back up with the dynamic and hold it back. Because I got 4 up here, I got 2 on the rear, and if I brought the DPU up to dynamic with the rest of the train, I might be able to hold it back. Although, it's making a liar out of me because I just come back a little bit and it starts picking up. So, my rule of thumb is I normally won't release the air until I clear the 30 right here, like when my counter runs out and I get down into 35. That's anywhere west of here is where I would release the air. Sometimes you take the air all the way down, almost down to baseline of 7th Street, depending on how it runs. So we're going to keep an eye on it here through the duration of the trip. Yeah, I think we're going to have to keep the air on for a good ways with this thing. She's pretty heavy. Okay, we're now coming into the curve just east of baseline. And as you can see, the 8 pounds are still on, holding me back quite nicely. We're in the low range here of dynamic braking, right about the quarter mark. So that's really going to start determining where we're going to want to release. And it bottoms out down here. It's uphill. Once you get on east of baseline and string it out through 7th Street into the Amtrak station, it bottoms out in there, and you'll have to start pulling on it. So that might be a pretty good place to let it go. As I mentioned earlier, at the top there, Cajon, every train's different, and they're all going to handle differently. So you're going to want to, you got to play it by ear. A lighter train isn't going to need the air, back here east of Keenbrook someplace, Vermont, So rolling her through baseline now. See, the accelerometer is on a steady deceleration, so bring it down a little more here and see what happens. We're not going to totally come out of dynamic for my next example. Coming up here, you come out of dynamic and you are going to be in trouble. So, okay, let's just go ahead and say for the fact that we're going to release it right here, okay? Get a little bit of train on the hill, but we still got a little bump, it's coming down. So here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go ahead and start building your dynamic back up Start building into it, and then release it. See how this handles when I do this. When you get a release here now, all the cars, the brakes are all releasing, everything's going to come against you now. See, accelerometer, making moves. Nope. Here she comes. You can see up ahead here too that a little flat right here, and then it'll bottom out right into baseline. So I poured on a little extra dynamic. I thought it was going to come a little harder than that, but like I said, every train's different, you know. I didn't know how this was going to do this, so you kind of gotta be cautious about it, but you can't be careless either. It's nice and easy. Other thing too, you know, if you got to go back after the air, you go back after it. Alright, now you can see the accelerometer bobbing back and forth. It's finding a nice average in there at about 25 mile an hour. So, got the approach medium there at 7th Street. If you don't have a signal rain, it's okay. Now we're easing it off. As you can see in the curve down there, and then through the curve to the right, she's starting back uphill. So we'll let off the dynamic a little bit, let it come against us. And then we'll pull them. I'll probably pull on it up here, right about the Amtrak station. So right there's our 30 board too. So now we have a speed change, so we can't let her get too fast now. Through the curve. Another thing too is that the game, I've noticed, simulates quite well is how curves bind trains up. You get all the wheels rubbing against the flange, or excuse me, the flange of the wheels rubbing against the railhead. That creates friction and drag, and that will slow a train down. And I've noticed that this sim does a very good job of replicating that too. So that's something you can also take into account. You know what you need to do coming down a hill. We don't have a light there. Let's line up real quick for my, so I feel better about it. Okay, perfect. Alright, bring the dynamic down. As you can see, she's starting to slow. We're bound up real good. Rear end's probably still up at baseline, so we're in a couple curves. Yeah, she's start to ease out now. Start to ease out. Not sure she's bailed. Nice and gentle here. Down about 10. Okay. That's it. There's nothing left in the dynamic. I'm going to go ahead and drop the fence. 3 units are going to come into setup, but it'll be alright. Okay, waited our 10 seconds so we can transition to power. Down to idle. Alright, we should have the train. Alright. Gotta be gentle here too, pulling this out, because now everything was bunched coming in through the Amtrak station. So you want to gently pull on it. You want to bust it in half someplace. You go right to 8 on this, you'll tear it right here. This is a tricky spot too, because you'll come in through this dip, you'll come up here, and right here by this fuel pad, you'll start back downhill again. And if you work the GM yard over here in San Bernardino, you know pulling out, you know, back toward Reina with a big cut of auto racks with this sucker it'll pull you down in there into Reina. So that's something to consider too when you're pulling out of the hole right here. So not only is this about bringing a train downhill, but it's about getting her back up to speed once you got to the bottom of the hill. You know, again, speed's not everything. You want to. Sometimes you got to sacrifice speed for train handling. So we're coming around here quite nicely. DPU's on the rear, doing the same thing the head end's doing. That's how I like to run my DPUs normally. Unless I'm starting on a hill, then I give them the fence, get them a couple extra bumps. Doing 25 through here, nice and easy. We'll give it one more here. She's starting to bog down a little bit. And that's more or less the gist of it. How to bring a train down, you know, in a realistic fashion in Run 8. So if you want to do it like the pros do and try to do it as realistically as you can, there it is. This creates a lot less strain on the engine. You know, no independent, can't use the independent outside of a yard, or less than 3 mile an hour on the main line. Excuse me. But you know, little air, little dynamic, and she'll come right down like a pro. We didn't use too much air. 8 pounds, that's not a lot of air. Once you start toward 9 and 10, and you get kind of worried, but you know, that's not too shabby in terms of, you know, how much air we put in a train. So there you go. That's it. Another successful run, another lesson learned. So I'll keep an eye out for more videos, guys. Got plenty more stuff I'm going to work on here. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you learned something, and maybe you can hop in the server here tonight and put it in practice coming down Cajon or coming down Mojave, something like that. So give it a try and see how it goes. So everybody take care.